There are three little words in this episode that are so beautiful. I really found this to be brilliant. I wasn't expecting to enjoy how they met. This is the 26th and final episode of the third season of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's directed by Gary Halvorson, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And the reason I didn't think I'd like it is because it's a flashback episode. The bulk of it is a flashback to how Ray and Debra met, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. As I said, there will be spoilers as I explain how they met. Honestly, it was a tiny slow start. But once we got into it, I really began to enjoy this, and there are several moments that I really absolutely adored. I will say, Ray looked younger. He looked younger than he does now at the time. Debra, not so much. They basically just changed her hair a little bit. Ray definitely looked quite a bit younger though. And the episode actually starts off in present day. Really sweet intro. Ali met a new kid at school, a boy, and he's coming over, and Ray's being his usual self, and the way Ali looked at Debra, and Debra reassured her Ray wouldn't be there when her friend comes over. I rather liked it. They then are serving dinner. Debra is yet again serving lemon chicken. Ray is a little bit fed up of this, and they get onto the topic of who asked out whom. And they both kind of claim that they were responsible for the relationship. And as it plays out, in case I forget to mention this, they are both responsible. They both played a part. And yes, Ray kind of made the first move, but then he also didn't, because Debra kind of encouraged it. I'll explain as we get there, but I kind of really like that. It's not a clear cut, it's because of Ray, or it's because of Debra. I really enjoyed that. As I said, the bulk of the rest of the episode is the flashback. Ray is delivering a futon to Debra, and he eventually gets onto the topic of restaurants. Debra is aware that he wants to ask her out, so she kind of tries to push it. She's talking about how she might have Chinese food tomorrow from the restaurant. Maybe she'll be there at lunch. It takes Ray a long time to actually get the hint that she's welcoming an invite for a date, and eventually she agrees, and everything's going really well. And then Ray forgot to give her the futon cover, so he knocks on the door, and Debra, who was, I believe, just about to get in the shower, shouts, "Coming," as in, "I'm coming to the door." Ray thought she said, "Come in," as in, open the door and come in. And he opens the door, and he sees her pretty naked. She was in the middle of putting her shirt back on or whatever, and yeah, he saw her exposed chest. And we then cut to Ray and Robert in the flashback, and Ray is saying that he didn't turn away, he didn't turn his head, so he can't go on this date because clearly she's going to think he's a pervert. Robert is the one who's thinking about zebras with breasts, but it worked well enough. And then there's a knock at the door. This is the bit that I think is maybe a little bit unbelievable, but maybe I'm overthinking it, because Debra turns up at his address. And when she went to the futon place, they said she could find Ray there. Giving out an employee's address, I feel like it wouldn't happen today. Maybe it would in the 90s, but either way, I think that was maybe a bit of a stretch. But nevertheless, that's how we got there. And Debra basically asks him, "Why did you cancel the lunch?" And she did make me laugh when she said, "I don't look like that. He saw you naked, that is what you look like." But she was going on about angles and lighting, and it made me laugh quite a bit. And she said that she should have been the one to cancel the lunch, which I think is fair, and that her futon has a wobbly leg. So Ray is going to go by the following evening after 6 o'clock when she gets home from work, and will fix the futon. And that's what he does. And this scene, I think, it's beautiful. It plays out really well, but also the way we would expect from Ray as well. I was really impressed that he turned up quite smartly dressed, not in the usual attire for fixing a futon. He clearly wanted to make an effort. He felt a bit awkward once Debra pointed it out, but nevertheless, I thought he looked pretty good. And while he's fixing the futon, and I'll be honest, I did think it was pretty obvious that there wasn't going to be a wobbly leg, because I feel like Debra wanted a reason for Ray to come over. And that's what's established. There is no wobbly leg. And Debra's sorting out her dinner, and she asks Ray if he wants some food because she made too much. And initially Ray said, yeah, package it up and I'll eat it in the van or the car or whatever he said. Again, Ray not really getting what's going on here. And this is the bit that I love, because she said, you can eat it here. She plates it up, and as she's doing this, Ray says to her, were you making all that food for someone and they didn't show up? And all she said was, they showed up. And I don't know why, and I don't know why I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but there's just so much beauty in those words. She doesn't need to say, I made this all up about the wobbly leg and then made too much food so that you had a reason to stay. She just admitted she did this for him. She wanted him there. She wanted to have dinner. And just those little words, he showed up. Ray showed up for Debra. And it's beautiful. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I loved it. And they're having lemon chicken, which I thought was a really great decision. And Ray says that he will sort out the drinks while Debra's doing the food. He gets the cups, he gets the ice. He hits Debra in the face with the freezer door. And she's on the floor for a considerable amount of time. And as Ray, once he realises, he bends down to check on her, and she kisses him. And it's just this beautiful, beautiful moment. And it's just perfectly executed. And then the transition is, it's instant. We go from that gorgeous scene, cut immediately to Debra throwing more lemon chicken on his plate. Not aggressively, just kind of fed up of everything. Here's your lemon chicken. And Ray looks at her and he says, it's still great. After all this time, and he's not talking about the chicken. Again, that's my reading of it, my interpretation. But I don't think he's talking about... I don't know why I'm getting so emotional at this. When you love characters, it's amazing to see them going from strength to strength, even when there are problems along the way. And this moment when he said it's still great, I just thought it was beautiful. And then the camera zooms out a bit and we see the children to the side, and it's just gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And I got really emotional with that final scene. And for a flashback episode to affect me so emotionally rarely happens. I don't like them. But for some reason, not for the first time either, Everybody Loves Raymond has presented a flashback episode that's not just watchable, but absolutely fantastic. And I loved it. And it's incredibly strong. A very powerful end to the third season, and I'm looking forward to rewatching the fourth one. How They Met is a really beautiful episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.